Hello, hello. Welcome to What's Working Now. I am your host, Katie Richardson. Super excited to be here. We're going to talk about what's working right now. And to do that, we've brought in the amazing and incredible Brittni Schroeder. And before you hop in, Brittni, I just want people to get a sense for a little bit of your wisdom and your experience. Brittni is a business coach and a marketing strategist who specializes in systems and automations. And please tell me we're going to talk about that today because I want to hear more. She helps entrepreneurs launch and level up their business. Brittni worked as a high school senior photographer for over 10 years. And she has also owned and operated Mosey Magazine up until 2017. Her work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Good Morning America, and several publications, which is so cool. She has worked in the nonprofit sector for over 15 years and recently founded her own nonprofit called the Compassion Club. And she currently lives in Houston, Texas with her husband and 2 kids. Brittni, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to dive into your wisdom and your experience. And before we do that, I want to hear if you could share with us the story of an experience that has really formed and shaped how you view the world today.
Okay. I mean, I have a few, but I'm going to start with like earlier on in my life and just something that was like so impactful to me. And it's interesting because like I have all these moments in my life where I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. And it changes, it evolves. But I think probably like you'd mentioned, I have been active in nonprofit work for years and years and years. I'm really huge on service and serving others. And I think it's interesting because I always, when I was younger, I'm like, I want to join the Peace Corps. And I think that totally ages me because now people are like, what's the Peace Corps? But like when I was growing up, it was kind of like, oh, you go to these third world countries and you help. And so I always had that dream. And so as I like started to go to school and, just like get experience, you'd mentioned, I was a photographer and I had a very successful business. And I kept thinking, I need to go back to school. I need to go back to school and be a nurse because that's going to get me to help people in other countries but it was actually my photography that got me to go to other countries. And I was asked to go on, hey, come over to Haiti with us. So the nonprofit, I worked with a bunch of different ones, but this one probably had the biggest impact on my life. But I was asked to go to Haiti and help open a school and go and photograph the kids and help get sponsors. And I went over and life-changing. Like it completely changed my perspective of everything and just like gratitude and being grateful for like so many things. And it's interesting because one of the founders, that's a dear friend of mine, she said to me, you don't choose Haiti, Haiti chooses you. And it would that, and it really, that's what it felt like. And so my heart was, from the second I stepped foot in Haiti, like I just had this connection to Haiti and helping these kids. And, I'm a huge advocate of service, but I'm also a huge advocate of empowerment. And their what's it called? Mission statement, I guess, is that give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Their mantra, I guess it's more of their mantra. And I love that because I'm so passionate about education and empowerment. And, we can give people, it's easy to give, but to teach and to empower is like, it opens up so many doors. And so going to Haiti, it just, it gave me like such a different perspective of the world, and life-changing. It was completely life-changing for me to see that. And kind of a aha moment for me, is when you go over to a country like that, because it is such a poor country, you think, why was I given this life? Why was I given all of these blessings of being born in America, being born into a good family, being born into an educated family, like all of these things? And in a way, there was a time where I kind of felt guilt about it. And but I had this like thought, and I had this moment of clarity where it was like, you were given these gifts, and if you don't use them to help others, shame on you. Like you were given these gifts so that you can use those gifts. And I would say that that was, I've had several other like life changing moments, but to me, that was such a powerful like time in my life. And I worked with that nonprofit for years, and I raised a ton of money. We educated a ton of kids, and it was seriously such an amazing experience. And I still, I have my own nonprofit now, but I still occasionally do stuff with that nonprofit. And yeah, it was that.
I
That's
mean,
probably that's it. Yeah.
I mean, something I'm seeing as you tell that story is a lot of times we can look into the future and say, I want to join the Peace Corps. And we
Yeah.
think that's the goal, that's the target. And as you went through life and you had this experience in Haiti, what you started to realize is, oh, I want to travel and serve people. One way to do that might be the Peace Corps. And
Yeah.
what's cool is, when we at least have the audacity to put statements like that out there, I want to join the Peace Corps, right? Like,
Yeah.
as a young girl, people probably thought, oh yeah, I'll believe that when I see that, right?
Yeah.
But in a way, it did serve as this guiding light, which then led you to nonprofits and benefiting people in Haiti, and even utilizing your talent of photography in this really incredible way to create awareness around people in need, and how that was all brought together through this young mind saying, I want to join the Peace Corps. Like, that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and you have to, it's, a couple things, like it's the law of attraction, but it's also like trusting like the journey, trusting that, there's more than one way to get to where you want to go, and everything happens the way that it's
Yes.
supposed to. And it gets us to where we need to be, good or bad, we get there.
And yet we still have to set those targets, right? We still yes, things will work out, but we do have to set those targets. And because you had done that, even though maybe it was a little bit off, that's okay. Like, life showed you where the opportunity was, but that desire was being fulfilled, which is just so incredible, so beautiful. So bring us up to speed now today, given all of this experience in photography and nonprofits and service and empowering people. Today you're a marketing strategist, you're a business coach. So as you look at both your business and the business of your clients, help us see some of the things that are working right now.
I think a lot of things, you're constantly learning. And, I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years. So one of the things I think is failure. You are going to fail at so many things. You're constantly learning. And, I'm learning all the time, what works and what doesn't. But I think you just have to do it. I'm a business and a marketing coach, and I'll have clients that will come to me and they'll say, okay, I have this idea, I'm going to do this. And I'm very transparent and very honest. And they'll say, will it work? Will it work? And I'll say, I don't know. You have to test it. You have to try stuff. You have to test it. You have to tweak things.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really just taking action, it's just do it, just try it, put it out there, and then we can develop it as we go, and we can tweak things. We can tweak our funnels. We can add this, we can take away that. But I think, just getting out there and doing stuff, and you learn. And, I learned, talking just like about, like the nonprofit and fundraising, every year, we would have to raise money, to sponsor these kids in Haiti. And I was like the PR. And so we would put on like an event, and that was a great event. And then it would be like, okay, next year, like, how can we build on that? How can we make that better? And, and it was constantly like, how can we make more money? What can we do? And it was like year after year, we doubled like our profits, like with doing things. Cause and we didn't know, the first time you put something out there, you don't know if it's going to work. But it's like, when you find something that works, like, how can you build onto that? How can you improve that? How can we grow that? So I think it's really just, putting things out there and testing. You just got to do it.
I mean, that all comes together, because as we do take action and start getting in motion, right? So many of us can sit there and plan and plan and plan and plan, but nothing's going to change. At some point, you got to put that into action. And we live in an amazing time where you really can try and test things for pennies and really start to see what's going to work, what's not. So putting things into action, and then once you put it into action, looking at it and saying, okay, where did we fail? How can we improve? How can we make this better? And how can we now next year build on that imperfect action that we took this time, which is, there's so much wisdom in that, right? And conversely, we can get stuck in waiting until we have the perfect plan. And then we're going to take action. And especially today, like, you've been in business a long time, and so you've experienced this. It used to be that you really did plan and strategize, and you got investment money maybe, but you spent way more time planning, and the world has changed. And there needs to be more and more action, because the feedback loop is so inexpensive and quick. We can put our ideas, our products, our services out there in their imperfect, humble glory, and learn from that and improve it and make it better. And in a sense, collapse the amount of time it took to create those profits and that income.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you touched on something where it's like, we have to take action. And I'll say that is something that I do see, you know, when I start working with my clients, whether it's in a group coaching or one-on-one, pretty quick, I can see they're going to be successful. And the reason why is because they show up, they're consistent, they try different things, you know, and then you have, you know, different types of people that are, you know, they just want, like, where's the easy button? You know, being an entrepreneur is not easy, you know, it's not. And, you know, and I think too, I try to be a realist. And, you know, I also acknowledge that being successful is being really good at marketing. But at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter how many programs you buy. It doesn't matter how many, like, coaches you hire. If you are not willing to put in the work, you're not going to get the success that you want, and put yourself out there. And I think we're kind of you know, I think that I see that a lot, where people, you know, go from one program to the next, to the next, to the next. It's like, you just got to put in the work. You just got to show up. You got to be consistent. You know, it'll happen. Success happens. And, you know, my big push that my specialty that I think I work on a lot is like systems and automations. And it's awesome when you get them in place, because you don't have to work as much because everything's automated. But you also have that building phase it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to build a brand and to build systems and to grow those. So
yes. And part of that is content, and content is like, it always wants more. It's like this, it's like this hungry machine that always wants more. It used to be posting 3 times a week. Now it's 3 times a day. Now it's like 7 times a day. And it's just like never ending. So to go to your expertise, and specifically systems and automation when it comes to content creation, what are some wisdom, some advice that you can share with people who are feeling trapped in this never ending, always have to create more content? What are some things they can do to really optimize their content creation?
Yeah. No, I love this question, because I feel like that this is something that people struggle with, this and the time management aspect of it. One of the things like that I do is, you know, there's so many social media platforms out there, and it's great because we can market for free, even though sometimes we get frustrated with like the algorithm and stuff. We still have to change our mindset to be like, you know what, I'm marketing for free. And yeah, sometimes it stinks that you're only reaching 1% or 5% or whatever, but that's still 5% for free. And so we have to kind of change that. But one of the things, this is kind of a time management tip, is I have a content creation day, and it's usually Monday, and I designate a time, usually like an hour. And I am like, I'm going to set my timer for 1 hour, and I'm going to create content. And my primary platform that I use is Instagram. Like, I would say that that's where I spend the most time. I enjoy it. So I will set my timer 1 hour. Sometimes I post Monday through Thursday. And sometimes I can get all 4 like days, like content created. Sometimes I can't, but at the end of the hour, I stop what I'm doing and I move on to something else. but I usually can get like at least a couple done, 2 or 3 usually. And I schedule them so they're automated to go out. There's tons of scheduling apps. There's free ones you can use. Instagram, the Meta Business Suite on Facebook has a free one that you can, if you have a business account, you can automate. You can't automate reels, and there's a few things you can't, but like just pictures or posts, graphics you can, and you can do a few different things. But I automate that, and then I move on to other things that are moving the needle in my business. And that might be coaching, or that might be creating like courses or whatever it is. But I schedule that out. So that's my first tip. My second tip is create a system, a database or something where you can track it and repurpose your content. Repurpose. Like that is like my biggest tip. So
can you give us some specific examples of that? Because
oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think when I first, because I did photography, and I've always been, when I would speak at conferences and business, I'm always like, the business part was always like that was like my superpower, I feel like, because I'm organized. But one of the things that like that when I pivoted to just straight business coaching, somebody had given me, I'd read, or somebody had given me advice, is blog all the time. And so I did. I made a goal for myself. I'm like, I'm going to do 50 blogs. Like that is my goal. And so I wrote those blogs and I put them in a database. And now I have so much content, and I've blogged more than 50 times, but I have all these blogs. And so even now, like I'm going to repurpose that. So if I write a blog, I put it on Instagram, I will put it on LinkedIn, I will put it on Facebook, and I'll send it out in a newsletter. And I'll even take some of that information from that blog and I will create a post for Instagram. That's one example. So even now, like I started my podcast a few months ago, and I'll just go look at my blogs, and I'm just like, oh, I have all this content that's written. I have all this research. I have all this great content. I'm just going to repurpose that. And I think the other thing too is I think that a few different things. I think that people think with like social media, okay, if I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn, they think they have to come up with new content for each of those. And that's not true, because all the platforms have different algorithms, and different people are on different platforms primarily. I'm primarily on Instagram. So, if I'm on there and, like, or say you're on Instagram, that's your primary place, you're probably not going to see my stuff on Facebook, because you're just not on there as much. And that's how the algorithm works. And so just repurposing like that content and putting it in other places, and, tweaking it, changing it. Even it's interesting because I'll talk to my clients that's kind of a mindset block. I don't want to bug people. Like if, I don't want to keep bugging people about my retreat or whatever. And I'll say things like, I follow you and I engage with you, and I've only seen you post once. So we have to think of that mindset where it's like, there's no such thing as too much posting, and even here's another example of repurposing, our podcasting. If you're going to create, or you're going to put the effort out to create something, talk about it over and over. I have a system where I will have a VA, and I'll say, here's all my podcasts. Here are my freebies. Like every Tuesday, go find something that I've done in the past and just post it and just talk about it. And so I think that repurposing that content is like such a huge game changer. It's just, you have all this content, you need to blast it, get it out to as many platforms as you can. And don't just stop there, like go back, like if you wrote something like 2 or 3 years ago, go back and like, how can you like revamp that? How can you repurpose that? So
I love that you're talking about this and people's worry that I'm bugging people. And it's so true. Like, well, if you take into consideration, it used to be people needed like 6 times that they saw something before they felt ready to buy. And then it was 12. And I think it's like, I don't know, 22 these days, something like that. So if you take that into consideration, if you mention it once in a sub headline on your newsletter and you think, well, I don't want to say it again on my Insta stories because people are going to be, the reality is they have no idea. And I remember one client specifically, like she had a once a year sale and she sent one email. I'm like, one. She sent one email. Like, let's send 4 more. She was like, what? But it's true. Like people, they just, one, they need to see it more frequently before they take action on it. And 2, the likelihood that they miss it is very, very high. And you also take into consideration the level of noise and distraction in the world. And they just, it didn't cut through the clutter. Maybe they saw it, but they didn't really see it. So we're doing our customers a disservice by holding back and be like, well, I don't want to bug them.
Yeah. And I think that mentality, I think for some reason, women struggle with it more than men. For some reason,
probably
with like what I've seen with my clients, you know, but it's like, we have to talk about this stuff over and over and over. And, you know, and it's about like connection. I mean, I think of, you know, like this is the other thing, that a lot of our interaction, a lot of our relationships are now like online. And I was reading a study the other day, and it was talking about that you can connect with, like, it takes you 10 times longer to connect with somebody online as it does like in person.
Wow.
And, you know, and I think we've kind of gotten behind our computer, and, you know, but it's that like face to face, that's seeing the emotion, that's having like a conversation that really like resonates and makes you like feel connected with people, you know? And so again, as a business owner, our goal is to build that know, like, and trust factor. And it takes a lot longer on social media. And so we have to, like, you know, again, we have to just keep putting stuff out there, keep putting it out there until finally people are like, oh, I need that. And, you know, something I teach to my clients is that what marketing is becoming memorable. So, you know, like I have like a real estate, you know, I have a few real estate agent clients right now. And I said, it's, you know, we're talking about like newsletters and Facebook groups and all these things. And I said, it's not about like people who need like a real estate agent now. It's thinking of you when they need one, or they know somebody who needs one. Like, you need to be the first person to come to their mind. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. But that's what marketing is becoming memorable and making people think of you first, you know?
I've never heard it described that way, but it is so true, Brittni. I love that. Marketing is being memorable. As you think about people, you know, taking action and repurposing content, one of the things that they bump into is time. The reality that they've got kids and other responsibilities, they've got a whole team that needs them, and they're trying to work on the business. They keep getting stuck working in the business. So what are some things that you've done to optimize your time?
Well, I am the queen of automation, and that I'm constantly like automating. And it's kind of funny because I was having a call with my VA last night, and we were talking. She's a college girl, and she just said, like, she's like, oh, my mind has just changed so much. Like, she's like, I'll be doing these like tasks, or I'll see people doing it, and she's like, in my head, I'm like, they need to automate. They could automate this. So I think that there are so many things in people's businesses that they can automate, and they don't even realize.
Can you give us
know?
some examples?
So, okay. So for example, you know, let's talk about like a scheduling app, you know, like it's like understanding your programs too. I'm super techie, so I do have like an advantage because I like technology. But, you know, for example, I'll give you kind of an example of like an automation that I just did for a client. This client is like a super successful like coach, life coach, and it like the podcasting, you know. So we set up an automation that once she put in like she'd record the podcast, she'd put it into a spreadsheet. So we did it. So then all she had to do was put that in there and change the status. It would send an email to her editor to say, hey, this is ready to go. We also did it where we set up her scheduling app. She would schedule with somebody, a client or somebody, to do a podcast. they would go to a scheduling app, they would schedule it. Then the email that would go out would say, hey, give them information about it. Before we get started, can I get like your bio, your headshot? They get the bio, the headshot. It automatically auto populates into a database where it has all their information in there.
So good.
Yeah. So then she goes in and she puts in the link to her recording and says, ready to edit. And then it automatically sends out like emails to, like her social media person, to the person who edits. And, you just, all these like different automations that are sent out. And, it can put in an automation if you have like a whole team. It can we can create like a new like task or, whatever, send a message to Slack that says that it's ready to go. But just creating like a lot of different like automations. A lot of it is like communication, is just, communicating with people. This is done. And, you have to think of, you look at your business and what are the things that you are doing over and over and over again? And can you automate them? And people just don't realize like there's just like so many ways you can automate your business. You don't have to chase down, you don't have to send invoices, you don't have to, chase down people's headshots or bios or information from people, but just creating these systems ahead of time. It's gonna in the long run save you so much time, which time is money, because then you can spend it on things you enjoy and growing your business. So,
and if you have your VA setting up these automations, that's like even better.
Oh yeah. I think that's part of, so automations and systems. Another system is creating SOP, standard operating procedures, in your business.
Yes.
Where you are, like, for example, like if you do a podcast, what are, when you're first starting as an entrepreneur or anything, you're doing a lot of it on your own. You're learning like, I have to do this, I have to do that. And taking the time to write out, like, I'm a big checklist person. I love a good checklist, but just like when you do this, what's next? And taking the time to write out those procedures. So then when you hire a VA or you hire a team member, you're not having to re-explain everything every time. And it just, it just eliminates like a lot of time. And then they know, I see a lot of entrepreneurs hiring VAs. I'm overwhelmed, I'm busy, I need help. They hire VAs, but they don't know what to have their VAs do. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, just do this, And I mean, these VAs are probably making a killing because, they got smart and said, okay, 10 hour, like they do packages, 10 hours. And, if people don't have things for them to do, it's like, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. But just having like a lot of like standard operating procedures in place and tasks so that, these things are getting done.
So good. I mean, this is foundational stuff. And to your point, when you start as an entrepreneur, you are doing all of the things, and it can be easy to get stuck in that thinking, that mentality. Well, it's all up to me. And so you have a perfect solution. Start creating your SOPs now, even if it is just you. Start creating those SOPs so that when you hire the VA, you can say, here, all of these things, I've already outlined it all for you. So much brilliance. Fantastic.
For sure.
Yeah. What are some mistakes that you see people making in their business today?
Oh, lots of mistakes. So, I think, as far as, I always say that there are like two reasons that small businesses fail. The first one is they grow too fast, and the second one is they grow too slow. They're not getting enough business, or they grow too fast. Mm-hmm. And, I think you have to, if you're growing too fast, like make sure you have systems and automations, like you want to keep the integrity of your business. And so on one hand, I see businesses growing too fast and they're losing that small business feel, like, where they aren't, they're not giving this customer, it's not creating like this experience that people talk about, so it's interesting because right before COVID, or right during COVID, we had a pool, we put in a pool at our house, and I become friends with like everybody that I ever work with. And I kept telling this pool guy, like, oh, you need to hire me. Like, I'm like, the beginning was really strong. The middle was, and the end was like totally weak sauce, like, because
Yeah.
he stopped communicating, and so
Mm,
I think it's just, like creating, we have to remember to create a client experience with every single person that we work with,
mm,
and really keeping the integrity. Another problem is like rate ROI. Like, are we, I see people investing in things, whether that's their money or their time. Are you getting a return on that? Here's an easy example. If you're on Instagram or social media for 3 hours a day, are you getting business from that? Are you getting a return on that? Because if you're not, you gotta pivot. You gotta move somewhere else. So I mean, I think that is, like kind of a mistake that I see a lot. What other things are? Oh, here's another good one. You ask me these questions, and I'm like, oh, I could go on and on. Another one I think is, and this might be like debatable, but I think it's really important to learn every aspect of your business, and learn as
mm,
much as you can, because I think what happens is, um, I think you have to know enough to know what you're doing, and then you can outsource it. And what
mm,
what I see is, I see people, I don't know how to do this. They hire somebody, and the person they hire does not know what they're doing. And so an example is, like I had a client hire, didn't know anything about Facebook ads, and it's overwhelming, and I get it, but hire somebody, and they didn't get an ROI on it. And I'm like, you have to know enough to know if they're doing things correctly. I had another
mm.
client hire somebody to do their website SEO, and then she asked me to look at it, and I was like, oh, this is it, like, this is it, right, this is it, like, so I think it's, like I said, knowing enough to know how to manage people in your business.
Yes.
I
So
think that's
good.
really, I think that's really important to know, to keep learning, constantly keep learning. I'm always like learning more. I'm always like, okay, I'll get courses all the time, because I want to learn more. I want to improve my skill set, and I want to improve my
Hmm.
manager skills. And the more knowledge is power, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's an important one. That's an important
Yeah.
one.
I'm curious about trends that you see as you talk with your clients, because you're a business coach, you're probably talking to people in lots of different categories, yet at the same time, there's probably some themes or similarities, trends that are happening amongst all of your clients. What are some of the things, as you kind of zoom out, that you're noticing about entrepreneurs and CEOs today?
Um, as far as trends go, something that I notice, I don't know if this is necessarily a trend, but one of the things, like, I notice is, we are in a digital age, and we're seeing people on social media that are doing well. One of the things I see is, I see people that are, they look at somebody, and they say, I want to be, I can see this person is really successful on Instagram. And so they think that that's how they need to be successful. And
Mm,
I think you have to stay in your lane. Like, what are you good at? And that's why,
mm,
even as a business coach, and I was like this when I was a photographer, like, I'm like, I can teach you everything that I know. I can give you every tool in my tool belt. You're never going to be me. You can't replicate that. And so I think it's important to, like, stay true to who you are, and play off of your
mm,
your strengths. We see it all the time. We see people on social media, and we're like, oh, like, you probably shouldn't be dancing like that on social. You know what I mean? Like, but some people can totally get away with it. And so I think we have to remember, like, who's our audience? Speak to your
mm.
audience. If your audience is like, you know CEOs, like in a high stress, like, environment, probably not using a bunch of funny filters is going to attract your audience, like.
Right.
So, knowing your audience, and, like, meeting them where they are, um, growing your network. I think that's a powerful tool that people don't leverage enough, is, building a network of people that will, like, where you guys together can, like, grow each other and collab. and grow your business that way. So as far as trends go, I will say this is a trend is, as far as like social media goes, people want to connect. And I always say, give people, it's an 80-20, give people 80% what they want and 20% what they need. And because of like the culture, people want connection, they want entertainment, they want that type of stuff. And that's why you're seeing on a lot of these platforms, what are the, like, who are the people that are really successful? They're the ones out there entertaining or connecting, and not everywhere. That doesn't always equal success, but it's like, it's knowing how to really connect with your audience.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Love it.
So.
Love it. So much wisdom here, Brittni. You've shared so much when it comes to strategies and how we can really approach our business in a way that has us improving over time and experiencing that feedback loop and creating systems and automations, like lots of really great wisdom here today. So thank you so much for all that you shared. And if you have a few more minutes, can I ask you a few rapid fire questions?
Sure.
What is something that you do consistently every day?
Probably pray and exercise.
So good. I love it. So good. Is there a book that you keep on your nightstand? Maybe you frequently revisit it or you find yourself gifting. What's that book that's had real staying power for you in your life?
Oh, geez. That's such a hard question, because I've read so many. I'll tell you, I rarely read a book more than once. So I would say, I'll just tell you that the last one that I read, what is The Anatomy of Peace. Have you read it?
No. Who's the author?
Really good. Oh, I don't know. I knew you were going to ask
That's
me
okay.
that, and I don't know.
Google.
Anatomy of Peace. Yes, Google. Yes. Anatomy of Peace.
Awesome.
I feel like everybody in our world needs to read this. It's just a good about having a heart of peace. So not a heart of war.
Awesome.
So.
Love it. Is there some good advice that you've received in your life? Maybe it helped you in a critical moment that you could share with us right now?
Yeah, okay, I'll give you one. It's not business related, but
that's okay.
It's the best marriage advice that I ever got. And it was, take a vacation every year. And if you can afford it, go once with your kids and once without your kids, because it doesn't, like, memories are one thing that you can never take away. Never lose memories. So
love it. Brittni, that was amazing. Such good advice. I really appreciate that. This has been an amazing conversation. And for people who are listening, who are saying, I need Brittni's help. I need help with my marketing strategy. I need a business coach. Where can they find you?
So they can find me on my website at www.brittnischroeder.com. And I'm on every platform because I'm repurposing everything, but my main platform is Instagram, and it's Brittni.Schroeder. That's where I'm at.
Awesome.
On Instagram.
And we'll have links for you in the show notes. You can just go click on that link. And for everybody who's listening, this is what's working now.